digging a hole, diggy, 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 diggy hole. Oh, I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole, digging a hole, digging a hole. I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole, diggy, diggy hole. I'll be with you in 1 second. Hello, 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 hello. What was I doing? What do you do with the Klondike bar? Well, first you get your big butt down to ground level so everybody can hang out with you. What's up, everybody? From the eagle to the people, let's stream. Saving the flowers. Yeah. And there's, well, this is the result of our blah 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 words that I don't know. Hi. Anywho, yes. Today we're going to be transplanting some of the flowers over, which means I'm going to pull up chat down here so I can stop sitting there looking up like that, and that will be happening. As you can see, behind me we have all of the flowers that we originally started with, which is pretty cool, I think, because most of them did come up, so that was a bonus. But I made one massive error, and I thought it'd be a good idea to bring it to your guys' viewing attention. Yeah, I probably forgot how to do that. Probably did. Kind of hard to forget how to do that, so. I heard myself. That's not good. Oh, I didn't change my tags. Eh. Well, my hashtags anyway. There we go. There we go. There we go. I got it fixed. I got it fixed. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. So, yes. From the eagle to the people, let's start over again. My big butt's down here. How about that? That's going to be awesome. So, on that note, guys, what I am doing today is this is the result of all of the plants that we originally planted, and we had a good time doing that basically with the entire weird video I did, which was something the most satisfying video I could think of. I don't remember the exact title, but it was somewhere around there. So, the problem is, I made a fatal error when I did that, and I thought it'd be a good idea to maybe come over and correct it, seeing how I don't really have a whole lot of room to do much else, considering if you turn around, there's even more plants, and if I turn you that way, there's plants. So, yeah, kind of overwhelmed by plants. So, what we are doing today is we'll be grabbing these guys and hopefully being able to get into them. Oof. There we go. So we've got these guys, which now we're going to play the camera adjust game for you. So down here we have these guys. I am sitting on a trash bag, by the way, because I'm going to be messing around with soil. So we've got these little dudes. These are the sunflower, Chanti sunflowers, and they do require full sun. Now what you're seeing over here as well is the banister light with the T12 bulb I was telling you about in the other video. This is the growing light I use. It's set about 18 inches away from the plants. At all times you want it to be about 18 inches away from your plants, otherwise it could burn them. So, that's stage number one. Now stage number two, I ran into a problem. I put these guys in here, and I didn't give them enough room for their roots, because I forgot. They get big, and that happens. So, to correct that problem, we're going to start by unbondaging them, because that would be a good one. Now the cool thing about these pots is, one, you buy them because they can be torn apart. Two, I buy them because if you're really not in the mood for doing it the right way, you can get away with doing it the wrong way. This is one of our little sunflowers. Say hi to the camera, dude. There. Now, this set of leaves should not have started popping at that level. And that was one of the issues that I ran into and realized that I've stunted them. So hopefully we can unstunt them today. So what we're going to be doing is taking this pot, putting it in that pot. Not like that. But what I do need is a little bit of soil. Which means, let's see if I can get my booty on camera here. Booty, booty, booty. Nope, that's all leg. That's all leg. I know that's all leg. It's all good. Make it work. Get our Jiffy soil. Everybody loves our Jiffy soil. Well, we love our Jiffy soil. Alright, so what we're doing is, again, we're moving this guy into there. Now, if you're incredibly lazy and don't want to deal with it too much, these pots are degradable. So you could put this pot right into that pot, but because I want to make sure that this guy has all of the room I can get him, we're not going to do that per se. We're actually going to retransplant the way you're supposed to, which is to cover top with your fingers so you can pinch the plant without hurting it. Turn the pot over, and then you'll just squeeze the sides until it pops free. And yes, you can do a little tap action. But another really nice thing about these two that I just remembered is they're degradable. So if you cannot get to the plant, you can rip them apart. In this case, I'm going to just get enough to where I can get my finger inside and kind of work from there. So this is the problem. I have caused this plant to have to root several different areas that it shouldn't have been in the first place. So if I let it go too much longer, this will start to bound up on itself, and that's what we call root bound. Can't find soil here, so I had to use... Oh no, that's fine. I use Jiffy soil. That's my personal preference. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take that guy, we're going to stick him right down in that hole. And that's going to give him some more room to grow. So because I've got Jiffy soil, which is going to be incredibly loud, I'm going to take a handful of this soil, and I've already pre-moistened the bottom half of the soil. I'm not going to pre-moisten the top half because their watering day is coming up, and then I'm just going to kind of shuffle him up to the height that I want him, tuck some soil on him, and then we'll pack him in and call him pretty much planted. So the hope is to on-stunt the growth that I've done. Now what I'm doing is just, I can't really show you the pressure. Here, I can actually. I'm only pushing this hard on the top of the soil. So if you can move an open bag with your fingers, that's about as hard as I'm pushing. And all that's doing is just pushing the top of it down, so when I water it, it's not going to wash out. Because I just got a really weird whistle. Now the other thing I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my wooden dowel. I'm going to run it down in there, because when this guy stands back up, hopefully what'll happen is I'll be able to pick up some grafting tape, and then we'll tape him to this so he'll actually stand up straight, and I won't have to worry about him snapping. So that's plant number one. We do have a loss or two, which is unfortunate, but it happens. That one's still growing shockingly, but it's basically what we would count as a loss. So, yes. Miracle Grow is also one that I would go for. They're always usually fertilized pretty well as well for that in-between mix. But typically, if you're looking for a seed starting, I would go with an organic seed starting soil. It should stay right on the bag. But if you're not starting seeds, you can pretty much use anything. Anything Miracle Grow related, because I use the big garden bags of Miracle Grow. So I like them. The garden bags and the potting bags of Miracle Grow, they've got a decent mix in them, so I can't complain about that. So, next plant, we're going to do this one. And I'm going to show you the other way to get around that by having cheater pots. Now, again, I have these strapped up so that way if they do end up needing to be stood up, I could just tie them to a dowel rod, but I also realized as well, based off of the growth pattern of the leaves, that I've sadly stunted the growth a little bit because I didn't give them enough roots. So, reason Yeah, that's a Miracle Grow. I think I've got it in the. I think I've got the bag in the shed still there. So again, the nice part about having these little organic Jiffy degradable pots, which you should be able to get at Home Depot, um, is that if you do make these kind of mistakes, like I make, sometimes we're all human. It's gonna happen, and you don't really want to fight with them too much. You can always remove all of the pot just by ripping it apart. And it's no harm, no foul. This is fully degradable. And that BJ store is something else. So instead of forcing this guy to have to grow through this, which he will, I'm actually going to untuck him as he's trying to grow through it anyway. There we go. Well, sorry about that. Untuck him, and then we're going to plant him. Grab your handful of soil, bring your level up to where you want him to be, and we'll take him and we'll just tuck him right in there. On a side note, guys, if you are a tobacco user, please be sure to wash your hands before you mess with the roots of plants. Nicotine is poisonous to the roots of most plants. So then we add our stick for stability. Then later on, or we could do it now, since I got these strings still. Just to get him standing back up straight, we can just tie him up. Now, I don't try and tie anything tightly. I can usually fit my finger through the hole. I'm not trying to strangle the plant. What I'm trying to do, just make a little hook that it can hang off of. So it's kind of like that. So the plant doesn't pull over. Because sunflowers grow these really long stalks, they sometimes get really top heavy in the beginning. So yeah, plant bondage becomes a thing. Plant bondage, that's a big one. But yeah, so you gotta bind up your plant, but don't, if you ever do this, grafting tape works fantastic for it because you can actually tape it up and it won't hurt it. However, twine, like I've got, because I don't have a whole lot of supplies left, is what I've been using. And basically you just don't squeeze it against it, so you shouldn't be doing that at all. Like through where your finger is, you should be able to have about that much room. That gives the stem room to grow, expand itself, and then it won't have any issues later. So hopefully that helps you. If you do tie it too tight, it will strangle the plant and you will end up with this issue over here, which I will show you in a moment because I gotta remove him. Alright, hang on. I'm trying to pull apart a pot here. Alright. So what ended up happening was when I tied the plant up, it got too tight and the root snapped over. So you can actually see what happens when you over tighten these. Now, so shockingly enough, this guy's still growing, but I don't think he's going to make it very long. So we're not going to bother transplanting him. What we are going to do is just count him as a loss and go from there. Another thing too is I found these guys. These are the Jiffy pints. I like them a lot. They're about a pint size. Let me see if it says how big they are. 6. Bring me to your canteens. Not sure of the size. I think they're about a pint, which is pretty good. But basically, I can get my whole fist in there. So yes, just for Mama Primp. I love fisting. Okay. And that's her line, not mine. So what I've done though is if you do get these pots, I like them because of the fact that if you're going to do watermelons and you don't want to take them directly out, they're quite deep. Like my hand's pretty big. So probably not the best comparison, but compared to like, let's see. like these are my starter pots. This is Nastrium, still hasn't germinated, but I figured it'd be another 12 days before we see germination out of that guy. Compared to this pot, which I just almost punched the camera, adding the two, yeah, you get quite a bit more grow room, and that's what I like for those watermelons and things, because they're going to be aggressively rooting. So, next plant, right? Move our bondage guy out of the way. Nope, I already got something in that spot. That's fine. Take this, bring this back, and we're going to start with the guy that we already have free. And yes, I can read my tags. I don't know if anybody else can, but unfortunately I haven't figured out the best way to deal with that yet. I'm still in the trial and error phase of that. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling apart the old planting pot and just throwing it on the ground out of my way. Grabbing some new soil. And hello, Mr. Richu. It's a pleasure to see you. Glad to have you. Now we're going to fill this pot up, and I'll show you right now where I'm filling it to. That way you can see it as well, because optimistically this is a good amount of dirt and still leaves you room to water. So we're going to be filling our plants to about that level. So if you can see where the soil is at the top, there's probably about the tip of my pinky finger, I'm going to say. Yeah, so about the tip of my pinky finger left in space there is what you want. So your pinky finger might be bigger than mine, but that's okay. Finger shaming is not a thing we do here. So if you have a bigger finger, feel free to use a bigger finger. We're going to take our little dude and we're going to dig ourselves a nice hole right where we want him in the middle of the pot. Just squeeze it on down in there. Pack some soil around him. A little bit at a time. Oh, very nice. Very nice. What are you growing? Let me know. I've got jalapeno peppers, I've got California Wonder peppers, and we've got squash, zucchini, cucumber, and basil as well over here. Let me see. I think there's another one in there. It's probably over there. Oh yeah, I've got tomatoes. Can't go without your tomatoes. It's going to be awesome. I am so excited. Please keep me posted with pictures on that. I love to see what your guys' gardens look like. Feel free to tag me on Twitter with them anytime you want. I'm a huge gardening person. I actually went to school for this, so that's a thing. That happened once in my life. But, yeah, this was the field I dreamed about going into, and then things happened. But it's okay. Everything happens for a reason. So eventually, basically what's going to be happening here, guys, is I will be setting up a secondary channel strictly for horticulture and horticulture related items, where we'll be doing some traveling and things like that, and I'll go through and actually talk about plants with you. As for these streams, because they are on the gaming channel, I'm not going to try to overload it, but until I get the other channel up, that's where this stuff will be. So, yeah, that's the thing. And then when I get the new channel up, I'll just transfer it all over and re-upload it. So, woohoo! So let's tear apart another one of these Jiffy pots. Yeah, everybody likes their Jiffy pots, right? All right. So let me give you some of that tear porn here. Oh yeah. So terribly good. Ooh, very, very nice. That's exciting. That is always exciting when you get to first start out. I love first starting my garden. I posted some pictures on the Discord today about the garden being prepped up. The plants that are in there are ones that I planted probably about 4 years ago, and they're perennials, so they come back. One of them is, or two of them are lavender. One of them is my rose bush, which is incredibly high maintenance here in this state, by the way. Bugs and everything love roses. In any state you're at, actually, roses are incredibly high maintenance. they are susceptible to 90% of all diseases. So, with that being the case, plant at your own risk. So, this is what your dude looks like inside. He's got his roots in. He's starting to grow around the corners. I don't want him to do that, so we're just going to tuck him into a bigger pot. And when he gets to the right size, now here's something to keep in mind when you're doing your garden as well. You might not be a person who likes to start gardens from seed. If you do end up buying plants, you see these guys over here, try to get them about that size because most animals are kind of jerks. And I don't say that being an animal hater. Not at all. What I do say that being, though, is a dude who has experienced enough squirrels sitting on my plants and killing them to know that I should start them inside. So I keep them in pots until of such size. Oh, yeah, I really love flowers. I freaking love flowers. My whole room is flowers. My whole backyard is flowers. I've got, well, these are the creeping phlox alyssums that are pretty cool. Mama friend picked these guys out. They're going to be going into the garden. No. These I got after Mama Frimp left. But those guys got put in there. Mama Frimp's pots are all put together, and they're growing out nicely. A lot of these little guys are going to be her. We've got some giant peonies coming, some scabolias coming. I've got the snapdragons that still require their time to be dealt with. Okay, again, we're just going to tie this little guy up because he's at the size where he's not going to hold himself up anymore. Hook that just like so. Get these off of you. Alright, dude, kind of need you up here. Don't be a jerk. There we go. Now that'll help him stand up and it won't choke him out. There's a buzzing sound. I see the buzzing sound. I don't have my headphones plugged in at all. Let me see if that helps. Yeah, that should reduce it a bit. Sorry, I forgot. Ugh. Nope. You're not going crazy. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. I did forget about that. I'm not streaming on a game, so I didn't think I needed my headphones, so I didn't bother looking to see if they were even plugged in, so that's my fault. I apologize. This guy, I just want your cord. Yeah, you're not doing me any good there. You're pretty much done for, so. Alright. So I want this cord for this plant over here that we already transplanted that seems to not know how to stand up on his own anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and stand him up for the time being. Eventually his stalk should grow strong enough to withstand his own weight, but at this exact moment he's just a little guy. So we're going to help him out, stand him up, and that'll work out perfectly fine. Because shame on me. Oh yeah. Well, you said it in the beginning. I haven't streamed in a while. You kind of came down, and then the schedules changed, and things happened. And when all that went on, then it was like, oh, forget how to do everything YouTube related. Build a garden, weed a garden, and trust me, Mama Crimp weeded a lot of garden. She really weeded a lot of the garden. God, I wish I had taken a camera out there, but I don't have a mobile camera yet, so that's a thing. But we will be getting one because I have a greenhouse that's coming up, and I figured that'd be a really cool way to take gardening to the outside greenhouses with you and show you guys. Your poster fell on your freaking face. Oh, jeez, are you okay? Oh man, you're not supposed to drop posters on your face. That's not where they belong. What the heck happened here? Uh oh. You've got some damage. You're liable to be in trouble. Alright, so now we're gonna go with the other method. I'm gonna show you guys why these pots are handy. I don't want to mess with this one too much. It's got a crack right there in the stem, which means it took some damage, but it's still growing. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up in the bottom here. I'm gonna finger the bottom out right here. We're just gonna get the thumb in there, the big old thumb. So we can expose the roots around the plant. Give me a second here, I'll explain myself as soon as we do this. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm exposing the root around the plant. Now you see the little white things, you probably can't, maybe, I don't know, but this is the bottom of the soil. And I'm just going to leave the whole pot as it is. So instead of fighting with the chance of breaking the stem that's already fractured, we're just going to take the whole pot and put it inside of this next planter. Now the cool thing about the Jiffy tubes is the fact that they are organic and degradable. So with that being the case, they should be able to be friendly enough that roots will grow through them, which we've proven twice because a couple of these sunflowers have already stunted their root through that. So just gonna loosen that up and hope for the best with this guy. Take some of the outside soil, stick it around him. I mean, this is the least shock to the system you can give to a plant. By doing it this way, you do reduce the shock on the roots. They aren't exposed to the air, which is always a nice bonus. The longer your roots are exposed to the air, the more damage you're doing to your plant. So you always want to transplant as quickly as possible. And if you are not going to transplant, or if you can do it to where you're not transplanting and removing the roots, it just works out better for the long term of the plant. However, I don't trust these Jiffy pods enough for most of these that I would leave the bottom on. Always tear the bottoms off and make it able to go into the next plant. Yep. I need a thing. I need a thing. I need a thing. Oh, that was heavy. I still seem to be short a thing. Huh. Usually I'm more prepared than this. Well, let's see if we can see a thing. We cannot. That's not cool. I need a thing. I need a thing. I usually have one handy. All of this stuff, and I still can't find that. Sorry, I always keep one on my keys. That's the thing. Alright. We got our thing. You know what our thing is? It's not a key. It's a knife. And the only reason I need a knife is so I can get into the back of the toilet. Feet stream. Yep. Oh man, I just probably turned on a whole lot of world out there, didn't I? Alright. So, back to what we were doing, now that we've gotten into the fetish side of things. Thank you, Miss Sarachu, for taking us that route. That was awesome. Although that does worry me slightly that I might be corrupting your mind. On the same note, though, please be aware that viewer discretion is advised, and you should watch Eagle only at your own discretion. Your mind may be ruined by the end of all of the innuendos that are usually put out by Eagle Eye Gaming and his crew. However, on that note, if you do decide to watch, we take no responsibility, and you are liable for all brain damage that may or may not happen to you. Boom. Ah, that thing. I don't think that's where she was going with it. I think I just went there. Sorry, Sarah. Alright. We're going to pull these guys apart. Let them lay down, that's fine. I'm not too worried about it. We got a lost one in there, so we've got 3 more plants that guaranteed need to be moved. So, again, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, because he's growing right out of the bottom, which is kind of terrifying, because that means his root's been exposed for much longer than I would have liked that to have been exposed. But typically, this is what we would call a taproot. Okay, now this root is the main root to that entire plant. Yes, I know he's got a thing on him. He's also fairly resistant. I mean, I'm not saying go punch him or anything, but because of the fact that he's a sunflower and he's supposed to be taller, his stalk can take a little bit of movement and a small amount of weight in the very beginning, not a lot. I'm not talking like pounds, I'm talking just a couple ounces, which is what that is. So instead of trying to fight with this guy too much, I'm just going to remove the stuff, the one soil pod outline, so I could try and save his taproot, because I don't want to end up damaging that specific root. So there we go. This is the taproot to the main plant. That's his life source. Now when we plant him, because that thing is so long, uh-oh. Part of me wonders what that stream said, and part of me just wants to say I'm sorry. So we're going to dig down deep enough for that taproot to just go straight down rather than be turned underneath, because I got more soil for it to grow down into now. So with that being the case, that's where we're going to stick that. Now this guy will go over here. Try and get it to where this thing's not in his face. And again, we're just going to lightly tuck in our soil around the plant, which these were watered prior to doing this. I would always suggest watering before you do a transplant, just because it makes it a little easier to keep the soil together, and it also does kind of help the plant not take as much shock. So there we go. Got that one. And 2 more that can be transplanted. This guy, I don't know what exactly happened here. The best I can assume is that I bumped him with another plant and he lost his top, but he's been there for a few days and he's still growing out the bottom, so I'll let you guys vote. We can transplant him and see what happens. Typically I would say he wasn't going to make it, but we can try. I got the soil, I got the room. I've got the soil, I've got the room, I've got the place just for you two. Alright, I'll stop. That wasn't even fear singing, that's just me singing in general. I do a lot of that. Randomly. Okay, so again, just filling up to the edge. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, you should be able to. About the thickness of my fingers down. And I just want to keep doing that so that way the plant has optimal time. Hi, RJ. RJ. Where'd you see RJ? Oh. Yep. Things I looked up as I shouldn't because of dumb people on YouTube. 69, Rule 34, honey hole, and new way to see. Oh my god. Oh my. Those are things I never tell people to look up. I'm sorry, Sarah. That was not a good thing to really go searching for. There's nothing on this channel that's going to damage you any worse than that may have already done. In fact, I would suggest things therapy after that. So again, this guy I'm going to try and avoid tearing the whole pot apart. I'm too lazy. So we'll give him a squeeze. Pops right out. Perfect to go. This little dangler. The tap root. Want to make sure that's pretty much straight down when it goes in. So I'm digging down about the deep depth of my middle finger here. And we're just going to tuck them in. Push the soil up, and that's how you transplant them. And these are at the nice stage where it's not horrible to transplant. And what I mean by that is like, well, actually, I'll show you. Sarah Chu, people have told me that, Mama Frimp, many times. Yeah, well, I'm sure she warns you about everything going on this channel. She knows more about what's going on my channel than I do. Heck, if I ever go missing, like Eric said, call Mama Frimp, she'll find me. She knows where we're at. That needs water. That's always nice. I was looking for something specific. I was honestly looking for something specific. Stop Googling. Squeeze the depth of my middle finger. Oh yeah, that's a deep one. However, I noticed a problem, so you guys get to see all of my back end. That's gonna happen. Sorry if you gotta see my underwear in that process too. Alright. So, what I am gonna do is show you with this guy. Come here. Oh yeah, there we go. This is the one that we planted in the proper size pot. That's the sunflower mixed variety. And I'm not doing any real damage to them. This is the other thing I wanted. Because I will be showing you this in a moment. But, reach for it, man. Reach for it. It's all the way over there. Alright, cool. We got him. Perfect. Alright. So, this is the kind of transplanting I'm talking about that sucks. This stuff here, let me show you with a light in there. That stuff right there, these are snapdragons. And the problem with snapdragon seeds is they're really small. Like, really small. Like, really small. Way smaller than my finger small. And the problem with that is, when they grow, they do a little bit of this. And that is I'm going to grow like grass. Now, you could leave them like this. You absolutely can. I'm not saying you can't. But they're not going to get very big. They're not going to get to their full potential. So you try to split them up and move them around. So that way they've got room to root, room to grow. These all took pretty good to the transplant, which means that's pretty good. But I'll be showing you how to do that here after we finish the sunflowers. So on that note, let me turn my phone off. Ooh, snapdragons. Yes, we have snapdragons. We have basil, we have snapdragons. I've got foxglove growing back here. Canterbury bells. Sweet peas. Sweet peas are kind of cool. They grow up really viney. I didn't think about that when I planted those. So they're in a small pot, but they'll be able to transplant outside before it becomes an issue for me. I don't have a string for you, so hopefully we will obtain one at some point. But yes, this is what happens when you plant them properly. That's sitting on the ground, and it's pretty much at level with my camera. This is what happens when you don't plant them properly. I don't even think you can see the stick. So, yeah. It's quite a size difference here. Let me back that up for you. There you go. See? So this is why we give them the right size pot, where I may have stunted the growth by accident, and I did not mean to do that. But, well, when it comes to planting knuckles deep is the way to go. But on other subjects, then I'm a little more flexible. I've got a stream for you. Come get it. Oh, Jesus. That's one heck of a stream right there. I could sail that thing off a boat. I don't think that counts. Alright. So again, that's what she said. Ooh, ayo. So back into the hole, which we're going to finger thoroughly, and make sure I get down in there. I really want to make sure that it's all wet down there. That's actually a legitimate statement. We're fingering the hole. And I'm going to say it's wet. So now that it's wet and sufficiently fingered, we're going to take our plant and we're going to put our plant in there. That shouldn't be too hard considering we can just squeeze and it should just give me a quick release, which it did not. That's not good. I've run into a problem. I've run into an issue. Oh, okay. So we're going to set you down. There we go. All right, little buddy. Stream code for rig. Oh, stream is code for nice. Yeah. I don't like that noise. Yeah, sorry about that. I wouldn't suggest that last bit so much. Maybe in a different context, but definitely not that much. But we are going to put this guy in here, give him a little love. Tap him into some new wet soil. Put our stick back in there. Bind him up. That way he stays standing on his own. At least until he gets strong enough to where he can stand on his own accord without the help of this. And really, it's just like a little hoop that he's just leaning on. It's like giving him a crutch. Which will fall over a lot more often than you want it to. There we go. And we got two more. We get to two more here, so I need two more pots ready to go. Luckily, I've got that. One and two. Oh, no, I only got one more. Well, I'm still going to need that pot. Woo! Hi, Taproot. Forgot about that. Yeah, you can always do that. That's always a good one to do for sure. Alright. Oh, this will be interesting to really show you guys. I haven't done this in a while or seen this issue in a decent amount of time. So, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it really well right here. Because he's in too small of a pot, he's decided to reverse his growth. So his root is going up. Taproot at the bottom, feeder root at the top. What he's doing is looking for moisture. I don't know if you can, again, see that very well. Let me see if I can get a light on this. So again, the little thin string down there by my thumb, that is the taproot, or the feeder root. That little thing that looks like a thread coming off my palm, right here. That's the feeder root. This is the taproot. The taproot goes down, the feeder roots usually go out. But because this pot was so constraining, it's fed up. And what it's doing is it's looking to get to the next thing that it can sense moisture at and then move itself into that kind of moisture so it can get its own set of water. Basically, it's looking for nutrients. That's what feeder roots are all about, it's nutrients. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is just trench out a small spot here, tuck that guy back down into where it needs to go, and then we'll push him into some new soil, and that should cause him to start circling this soil rather than searching for a new value of moisture and nutrients. Pots, yeah. Yeah. Alright, so that's pretty much how we deal with that. This guy is what we would count as a loss, unfortunately, so basically trash. Hi. So now we've got our newer dudes. Yeah, he's basically harmless. I know him in real life, if that makes you feel any better. Sergio RJ is my family, so he's my cousin, and my family's got kind of a strong personality around them, including myself. So, just a fair warning for you. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm going to fold the dry soil into the on-dry soil to get it up to the level I want. So basically I'm just trying to make sure that I get a decent moisture around everything so I don't have to water today. Because I don't want to be doing this and then instantly watering right over top of it. Because these guys are delicate and they will cry if you don't treat them properly. So, here comes the fun part. Sad plant. Yeah, sad plant did not make it, unfortunately. Which actually, I have to say, in fairness of the planting community, I usually expect about a 30% loss, and it looks like we're sitting right around 10% loss of everything I planted, which is really, really surprising. So what we're going to do is, what I have is a flat-headed screwdriver. Yeah. I got a flathead right here. There we go. So, I use a flat-headed screwdriver. This one's a 1/4 inch flat-headed screwdriver. And what we're going to do here is attempt to get you the best light possible. So we're going to do this idea so maybe I can show you. Maybe use these Jiffy pots for something other than what they're intended to be used for. There we go. Yeah, looks good for moisture. Yep. Alright, so the reason why I want to show you this is because I am going to pull this thing apart. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This pot is the one we're working with. This is what we need. So what we're going to do is hopefully you can see in my hands, I'm going to take the screwdriver right against the side of the pot. I'm just going to wiggle across the edge, kind of like you're trying to get an omelet out of the pan. Once I get to the bottom, I'm just going to repeatedly keep shaking around in corners until the soil comes loose. And the reason why we're doing this is called a sprig transplant. So if you have to transplant sprigs, this is the safest way to do it. Also, if you have nicotine on your fingers, they will not survive this. So if you're a smoker, wash your hands or put on gloves. So we've got this guy freed up a little bit. So we'll grab him. And that's what you're looking for. That's his root system. Right down there. Now, I'm not touching that, and I don't advise you touch that. And in fact, I wouldn't keep him out of the ground too long. But what you can see is that little pile is his roots. And you always want to have a really nice root system on them. And their roots are usually going to be quite a bit bigger. So we're going to go about knuckle deep into the soil. Tuck him in there. And then we're just going to softly push him and stand him up where we want. So he should look like that at the end. And the reason why we're doing that is because these guys are quite the delicate flower when they're small. And it would be a heck of a lot easier if I just move this light over, which I could probably do. Yeah, I can do that. Hang on. We're gonna do some rearranging real quick so that way I can try and get you guys some better light on this, because this is a very not easy task to accomplish without killing the plant. This is definitely not a beginner's level skill. So you know, most people will just let those grow and then pass out. In this case, I'm not that guy. So we're gonna attempt to make us some room. So I can do this. Dancing. All right. Don't break on me. Just stay standing where I need you to stand. Thank you. Okay, you up that way. I got nothing firm there. That could be a problem. There we go. Now we just want to hold you up somehow. Basically means I just need to wait. Won't be that hard because I always have an extra weight laying around. Here we go. Now with any luck, we can see better. It's looking a lot like that luck is on our side. Alright. See if I can maneuver my booty back in here now. That's a knife. Wait, don't stomp on him. Don't stomp on him. And up and over. Yeah. Who else needs to do this to get to their bed, huh? Okay. Hi. And we're back. Quite a bit of ways back. You're a little too close. Yep, that's why I'm here. Hot light, hot light. Hi guys. Just Eagle hanging out with his light. Nothing to be too concerned about here. There we go. Hi. Now you can see the plant. Ah, that was hard. Yeah. I just had a mild heart attack. She knows what knife I'm talking about. That's why she had a mild heart attack there. Now, if you would just function the way I want you to function, that would be fantastic. And the way I want you to function is actually for you to go way the frick over there. Tap into something here. Kick this leg off to there. Bring this leg back to here. Okay. That leaves me enough room to work, you guys enough room to see. There we go. Whew, problem solved. Whew. Should have really just set that up before I did all this. Sorry about that. That happens. Yardy hardy hardy har. Yardy hardy who. Hooty hardy hooty hardy hooty hooty har. Where did my phone go? I had a phone that had a light that had something else, I'm pretty sure. Bad you. I can win. Just give me a second. Technical difficulties. Why? There's always technical difficulties. There. Stay. Now where the heck did I put the phone? That's the problem. I need that. Eventually, whatever. I don't need that. Okay. Back to what we were doing. Hi. Screwdriver. Lesson learned for next time. Yeah, exactly. Always gotta have coffee. I do. I really, honestly do. It's like a thing for me. And I realized why I need the phone, because it's got my chat up on it. So I also realized I'm dumb and it's sitting right here. Go figure. Okay. Anyway, back to what we were doing here. So we want to remove these guys. Now I have a whole little chunk of these guys right here. So this is all just a couple of roots. Now 2 plants together isn't going to hurt each other. We do have a plant hidden in there. He's probably a little small. All I'm doing is pushing the soil around so I can get this guy and lift him up and keep his root. Now you guys can see the root, right? You see the root. That's the top of it. You can barely see the top of it. So, again, about knuckle deep. In this case, 2 knuckles down because I'm using my pinky. And we're going to take that root straight down into the hole. Try and keep it as straight as possible because that's going to be his tap root. And you want to make sure that he's not having to work too hard for extra food. And once you tuck him in, he'll look like that. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to pre-make these holes, things I have a free hand to do. So right now, because these don't get really, really big, you can get away with planting a couple of them together, which is usually what I try and do. So I'm putting like 5 or 6 of these little guys in one big pot. This one doesn't have a very strong root system, but we're going to hope for the best there. Tuck them in. And we'll take these little guys that weren't looking too hot because they're tiny, which tells me they're probably not rooted very well. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to basically put it right on the camera and jiggle it. His root should be a lot bigger. So again, we're just going to take him, tuck him into the hole, give him a chance, give him a shot, see if he can make it, as well as his buddy here. His buddy has most of the root, so he should have a decent chance at pushing through this. So we just tuck him into the hole and boom, problem solved. Now this one I think is already freed up, which is nice. So again, we got the root point, tuck it down into the soil, preferably moist soil when you're doing these kinds of transplants. Less shock to the system, not as much effort trying to regain the water that you're drying out of them by exposing the roots. Okay, so then we're going to take our finger in the center, right there again, about knuckle deep. Your knuckle may be bigger than mine, but I was about to call it. Oop. Oh, nice. Ooh. That's an interesting thought. I haven't tried cinnamon in my coffee. And again, I'm not a huge cinnamon person. Okay. So I can see where these guys' roots lead through there. That's enough root on these 2, so we're going to go ahead and stick these 2 in the center together because they're twined. Basically, they've built themselves up where they were so close that they didn't get the chance to come up out of the ground very high. So they've wrapped their roots around other roots to try to give them moisture. However, I got one dude who does not want to stand up. So we're going to readjust this. Stick you in there where you belong, because you do belong in there. Give me that little dude. Where's the top here? We're going to tuck you in there. Okie doke. Here we go. So now everybody's tucked in and ready to go, and that's one transplanted pot. And you'll know within the next 48 hours, ladies and gentlemen, whether or not you did it properly, because that's about how long it would take for the root to actually dry out. So, tiny seed grows into a tiny plant and then becomes... Yeah, that's what I like about plants. They're really resilient. They come back from a lot of damage. And that's not like saying it because it's like, because I want to. That's literally... They're amazing. They actually come back from massive damage. I could chop off half the limbs of these plants, and I can show you exactly what I mean by that, and you can see where it comes back from it. Now I have one of these that's a little more full, so I'm going to start using them because I'm not going to sink any more soil into them. I don't need to. These are not really deeply rooted plants. These guys will root to about that deep, so that's at max your root system. An inch, maybe 2. This is well more than an inch of space in there, so. And when I flipped it, these guys popped out, so obviously they're ready to go. They're like, hey, put us in the hole. Come on, give us bigger space. We really want to grow. So they're going to go in there on that side. Now this pot's only about 3/4 of the way full, just so you know, if you were curious. Back to our screwdriver. Now I'm going in from the side that I know there's no roots. And I'm just going to shake until I either get the whole ball of them or I get the single plant that just jumps ship. So we'll tuck him in there. So he jumped out of nowhere. The less amount of the root that you take off when you do this, the better chance the plant will have. So if you do snap off most of the roots, just assume it's a goner, because they usually can't come back from that kind of trauma. Just a heads up for you. It's kind of like giving them a mortal head wound and telling them they'll be fine. Walk it off. It's not the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here with my screwdriver and I'm just going to tap on the soil and break it apart. That method should do okay, and hopefully what I'll do is find some roots. When I find some roots, I should be able to pull a plant off like that and transplant him. With his new roots into the new soil, doesn't look like I lost any, so he should have a pretty easy time making it. So right now we've got 4 of them moved. These 2 were twined together, so I just planted them together, which is okay. In these ones, I wouldn't say to plant like one individual every time. You can group them up to groups of 3s and 5s if you would like to, which won't hurt them at all. It just means they're going to bundle up and not get as tall. And I'm hoping for the height. Therefore, I'm breaking these guys apart the way that I know how to do that. And again, just lightly dabbing at the soil until the root falls free. So I'm not trying to damage the plant or the root, I'm just trying to get it free so I can put it into a fresh area of soil. And I'm hoping this guy comes quietly. Alright, that one I do want to remove, that's okay. That guy's going to go in there. Tuck him in there. Now the other thing too is when you're doing this is where you have to kind of pick and choose what you're transplanting. Everything that doesn't get transplanted goes back into the seed pod, and I'll get to it later when I have more room and I've shuffled things out, and hopefully that gives them a chance to start. But the ones I want to get bigger, I'm currently pulling out and transplanting immediately. And what that's hopefully going to do for us is allow us to get some big plants ready to go and give these little guys more light so they're not all bundled up and stuck trying to grow all in weird angles like this one. I don't know if you could see it that well, but he's in there. He's kind of doing one of these L-shaped things. We don't want that. We want him to be growing straight, and that's because they're trying to get to the light. Now, most plants that I have are full sun plants, which means they require full sun, like most of the day's worth of sun. That's basically what that's saying. And typically that equates to about 8 hours a day of sun. Right now I have them on a cycle where I'm running about 16 hours of daylight because they're in germination stage. And after that 16 hours of daylight, they get the nighttime for the rest of the time. You can get your timer setters as well if you want to go to Home Depot or your local hardware store. I think even like an office supply place or any electrical place will do it too. So, alright, we got nothing left over there. I can break this stuff apart, kind of. Start tickling at this. I'm just going to roll it. Try not to mess too much with the roots. Do the tickle method, which is basically come in here and tickle at the bottom of it until you get some roots free. So we've got plenty of roots here. As to what they go to, I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like that one's going to come free for us, so we'll dump him into the pot. Put those guys back down. Now again, time is against me as I'm doing this because of the fact that those are exposed root systems, which means they are drying out. So the longer that I have them exposed like this, the more opportunity they have to not make it. So we want to get them into soil that is moist as quickly as humanly possible here. So at this point, I'm not really picking and choosing. I'm just grabbing a plant. Anything that comes is what I would what's getting transplanted today. So this one's a little bit more small guys, which is fine. They should be okay to pull back from that. So they go there. And then we're gonna grab our next one. Now I'm gonna go until I run out of these pots. After that, that's basically it for me today. And then hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll have the greenhouse up and the recording area back, because that's a thing. Ooh, I see some decent roots over there. No, come here. All right, I know. Hold on for dear life. Don't worry, go into the hole, buddy. You can make it. Oh yeah, crash landing into planet new home. Now these pots here as well, I will not be individually moving them after this. They will grow to whatever they grow to, and they will get moved directly into the ground in these pots, which is really cool because that's where I will just cut off the bottom and plant the entire pot. And save myself some time in the long run. So again, about knuckle deep, roots in, tuck and squeeze, and squeeze, and squeeze, and lightly squeeze. Just until they're standing about where you want them to be. So tiny plants make tiny roots. Now here's a fun one for you. A giant peony plant does not make a deep root system. That's a fun one that you may not know. Fun fact about them, they do not grow their taproot very deeply. Trees will grow extremely deep taproots. And then their canopy width will overtake about 6 feet past the root systems will overtake 6 feet past the canopy width of the tree. So if you don't have that kind of room, don't plant a tree. Come here, little dude. Yes, I'm aware there's a couple of you. I just want this guy. Thank you. And you other guys can go in there at a different point. You are a loss, but you are not, and neither are you. So you two can go in and share a new home. Just like so. Come here. Stop grabbing on. You're not supposed to grab onto my finger. This isn't how this is supposed to work, dang you. Fine. Let go. Now all I'm doing is standing him up so I can bury him and get him to stand the way I want him to stand, which will train him to grow in a new direction here. So you can do that. That is a nice perk about having smaller guys, is that you can train them to go the way you want them to, opposed to having to fight with a big tree and cut it back down and make it small, which is never a good thing to have to do. So, got that one. I've got one more pot, and then I'll show you that cool trick about the big plants with little roots and how resilient plants can actually be. And I think it's a great example of how resilient plants can be because, well, yeah, you'll see. This thing could not be any more traumatized to get to where it was than it is. So one of the downsides about doing it from the root rather than training the tree when they're small. Okay, we got that guy. Plopping this root in. Bloop. Here we go. Go ahead and get this one. Now all I'm doing is going from the edge, just kind of moving them off the soil and dropping them into the new hole where they should be going. So again, about 5 or 6 per area. Occasionally you'll see something like this. That's the root to one of them that didn't make it when I was sifting through it, which is fine. This is essentially where you end up taking the most of your loss in this pattern because of the fact that you do have to be a bit aggressive with some of these plants, and that kind of is not how I'd like to do things, but unfortunately you can't be dainty about everything. And sometimes your force is the answer. However, this is one of those cases where it's delicate force is a better answer. So Alright, who's coming loose? There we go. Alright. So you two are gonna stay together. That's fine. We're just gonna tuck you into that hole and boom. Planted. Done. Which gives me this guy. The one attached to the bottom is already stunted too far. It's not worth the time to pull it up, so we're just gonna go ahead and do this. And tuck the bigger one that is going to survive on top. No, those are not the bleeding hearts. Those are mandavillas. They're a vine, a tropical vine. They like to be in no less than 52-degree weather. If you go lower than 52-degree weather, you will kill them. So that's a fun fact for it, but those are some ones that I picked up more recently. I was quite pleased with. Now this one's got 3, it looks like, and that's the max bundle I'm going to keep together at all. So you'll go right there. And hopefully we will survive, 'cause they were petrified, getting moved from pot to pot. That's all they know about their life. Hey! Okay. Oh, I know where that one came from. You go back right there. There we go. So that one's a little more artsy than the other guys, but still more room than what they had, so these guys should get to a fairly decent size. Which is basically the whole point there as to what I was trying to do. Let me show you here. Real quick, I'll grab one. These are the mandavillas. And they have this really pretty bell flower to them. The flower is designed this way underneath the species as a attractant to bees, so that a bee will go in there, get all of its pollen, and then it will move it to fresh soil. As it flies, it'll fall off. The pollen will then make other plants. And that's how these reproduce. So that's what those guys are. This is the one I want to talk to you about a little bit. If I could reach it. These guys are one of my favorite examples of what life can do. This is one root of an entire tree. So what they've done is they chopped the root down at the bottom. They put it in this tiny little pot, covered it with moss, which if you can't see above it, he probably needs water, which is fine. He's pretty dry. He's actually really dry. Okay, yeah, he'll need water. But either way, the pot here itself, if you see, they've taken the root, they took the entire root of the tree, planted this root, and then just trained it off the shooters that it tried to grow back from. And that's how they made the bonsai tree. So, yeah. So I do like to have very pretty flowers as well. We have some morning glories over in this corner. Got the hollyhocks. I've got petite marigolds. Oh, speaking of which, Mama, the ones you planted right before have started to pop up. Let me see if I can find some of those for you, because I know I saw them earlier today, which might be back here. Okay, where you at? Yeah, I don't know. It's probably up there. Of course. Yeah. There they are. Yeah. Alright. These are the petite marigolds that Mama Frimp planted while she was here in Michigan. And they've started to pop up quite nicely. The reason why I'm turning the pot is because I'm trying to angle it while looking at a camera so you guys can see it. So that is the beginning stage of this guy. These are the petite marigolds. These are the ones that we planted in the very original video I did. We planted them along with the other ones. And this is how far 2 weeks has come. So in about 2 weeks we've gotten quite a few plants. And there are 2 hollyhocks that I transplanted over here. Just so you know. So not most, I'd say actually not. Hang on. Turn around and talk to you in a moment. So honestly, more than probably about half of what you've seen hasn't made it to camera. Only because plants are high maintenance, and if you are going to do it, just realize you're in for quite a bit of work with plants. Yep, so your little dudes are doing pretty good there. We're going to go ahead and turn this back. Alright, well I don't need this on anymore. So that's a nice thing. Alright, cool. Alright guys, so basically what it boils down to is if you're going to do plants, remember that they're going to be time consuming, like really time consuming. That's going to be a big thing for them. 2, they do require, some require special care over others, and just so on and so forth. It's just, it's something you really got to love to do. But the thing I really like about plants is that they teach you a lot about life. At least in my experience, I've learned a lot about life through plants. I've learned that a lot of things are super resilient, like the bonsai tree. I love bonsai trees just because it shows how resilient and how beautiful life can turn into. And all of these will turn into these really pretty flowers, but they all start at these stages. We make mistakes. It happens. We correct them. That's one of the things I like about this. And plants are most of the time forgiving. Some are very unforgiving, but most of the time, as long as you're willing to take a little bit of care with them, they'll pretty much forgive you and grow for just about anything. Which proof might be in this guy over here that we transplanted that doesn't have the head of the flower on it. For all I know, he might make it. So we'll see. But on that note, yeah, that's what we got today. Our next episode will be covering some of the basics of plants. Basically, I'll be pulling out some of the flowers that we have here and telling you their zonage, the temperatures they like, their watering routines, how often you should and should not water plants, how to take care of them, soil levels, basically everything that I know about plants is going to start getting put up on this, and it will become its own thing, just so you guys know. So on that note, yeah, but trust me, some sad plants have made some really cool comebacks. Let me show you this one. This little dude went outside for a little while. This is the crimson watermelon. This little guy made it for quite a bit. Grew out for what it was worth for quite a while. Finally got his secondary up. I went to put him outside. He got attacked by a bird. He got snapped down and ripped out of the ground. All I did was push him back in from the point where he was snapped, which is right about here. I pushed him back in, put a little bit of water on him, didn't fertilize anything, kept it incredibly moist, and we have a brand new plant that's growing leaves. So even sad plants can be saved. That's one of the things I like about them. Plants can impress you quite thoroughly. They can come out of nowhere and just sideline you, and you'd never see it coming, which is so cool. So I've learned in the long run not to put my faith against a plant and its survival, except for this one. And I know probably might make it, but I'm not going to mess with it. That's basically a choice. I could probably save this if I strapped it back up, but I'm just not going to work with this guy because I've got more than enough sunflowers growing. Yep. And most of the ones that you root for actually are the ones that end up surprising me. I planted one in the very beginning, right before I started all of this, and started really letting plants take over. Oh, I love plants. They're always inspirational. But, yeah, like I said, These plants that you see, a lot of them have taken their fair share of beatings, and some of them haven't come up right, and other ones have. And I wonder if I can see this. Here we go. Here's another one that took a massive hit. This one you're gonna need the light for. This one here was actually knocked out of the pot, chewed apart by birds, chased around the yard by a squirrel, and the only reason I found it is because I was mowing it. And it has actually rerooted and started to come back again too. So this I can only assume is a watermelon plant. I won't know until the leaf structure pops up on it, but yeah. Again, plants make quite a statement. They don't want to go, they're not going to go, that's for sure. So, I can't complain about that at all. And I have to say, plants are amazing. They actually are part of the reason why I think I'm as calm as I am now in my age, because I used to be really hot-headed until I started seeing how plants kind of worked. And I'm trying to stick that in one that doesn't need one. Whoopsie. There we go. Cool. So guys, on that note, like I said, this will become its own series. Every video that I've got over here will be pulled down and put over there as well. I'll leave it in a playlist here for you guys to check it out. But pretty much once I get the greenhouse up, that's going to be the big thing. So follow me on Twitter for that. And yeah, I keep constant posts of pictures and things. Every few days I'll post a few more pictures into the Discord. I'll post pictures into the or on my Twitter and possibly my Instagram. So we'll see, but one of the two. And yeah, and to basically be able to show you guys how the greenhouse is going, and then when it's all set up, I'll have all the plants in there looking really, really nice. But I figure that's probably going to be another 2 weeks before I'm up and running with that. So, but I am excited about it. It's just dry time, cement dry time, stain dry time, things like that. But yeah, basically I'm custom building a greenhouse just for this, because this was part of my life that I really, really enjoyed. This is what I initially went to school for. I have a degree in this. This is what I wanted to do. Well, almost have a degree. There's the complications, whatever. I finished 4 years of schooling for this, is what I'm saying. And it's never been something that I've put down, and I've learned throughout my life that you just pick up the things that you love, and you'll find that things get a lot more peaceful when you just work with the things that you know are yours. This is one of my passions. Like, I don't try and teach people about plants because I want you to know about plants. I try to teach people the same thing that I try to do on YouTube. I try to teach you about something, but at the same time teach you the passion to have for it. So I think that's really, really cool. And I'd love to see what you guys got. If you guys got some stuff that you're gardening, throwing up, please by all means send me pictures of it. I would love to see those. Those make me super, super excited. I always hunt through and look for the newest, coolest garden looking things. So on that note, aside from live streams, guys, you will have the weird voice with every video. That is the rule. It's just a thing that just happened. I don't know why. But on live streams, I'm not going to try and hold that facade the entire time. This is weird. So, on that note, guys, thank you for joining me. If you guys like these stream/episodes, you know what to do. Go ahead and smack the crap out of that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. That way, every time we update, you get pinged with it. And with any luck, we'll see some growth out of these sunflowers coming up, and I'll be keeping you posted on pretty much how the rest of the guys go. So on that note, guys, thank you for joining me. It's been awesome, and you guys have a fantastic night. And again, I'm glad that it's an inspiration to you, Sarah. That's awesome. That actually makes me feel pretty good about this. So, on that note, yes. Good night, Sarah Chu. Good night to all of the other chat members. Thank you for joining me. And I will see all of you and your beautiful faces in the next video. Bye-bye. I've got to stretch.